stand for our opening prayer? Any volunteer? Okay, Miss Aspen. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Before you take your seat, I want you to pick some papers under your chair and please arrange your chair properly and sit properly and listen attentively. So, before we start our discussion, I will check your attendance first. Okay. So, good morning, students. How are your morning? Wow, that's nice to hear. But before we start our proper discussion again, I want you to take some moments for our class rules. So I have here the acronym rule. So rule, the, the letter R in the word rule stands for respect. So with respect, we should treat others, the teachers and classroom, and the materials we used for this discussion, and treat everyone with kindness. Next is letter U, which is understand. I want you class to listen and attentively and make sure you know the lessons very well. The letter L stands for learn. In learning, I want you to stay focused, participate, and give your best effort in every activity. And last, the letter E, which is engage. I want you, class, to engage yourself in art activity. I want you to ask questions you don't know if you don't know the if you don't know the words, and I want you to be active in discussion. Ask questions, and you can share your ideas. So once again, I am your teacher Chaira, and I will be your teacher for this subject, which is English. So how was your morning? Okay. My morning, I have my morning is good, and I take some coffee before I go. I go here. I went here, and have you noticed? Have you noticed your sentence? Mm, in each sentence, we have structures. So your your sentence, Miss Pius, is it simple, compound, complex, or compound complex? Okay, yes, your sentence is simple, and my sentence is compound. What makes my sentence compound? It's because I use the conjunction and. And later on, we will know the structures in sentences. So, just like your mornings can be described in one sentence, once or sentences in English that can take different forms. Today, we will explore different or types of sentences and how they are structured. So, for our activity, we have grouping and sentence strip activity. So, I have here some strips. And before we will start our activity, let's read the instruction first. So the first instruction in this activity is divide students into 4 groups. So I will divide you class into 4 groups by counting. Next is each group receives sentence strips. So this is a sentence strips with different sentences. The last instructions is students read, discuss, and classify the sentences. Then paste them on the board under the correct sentence type. So I have here a sentence strip, and all you need to do is to discuss and read, discuss, and classify this according to their sentence structure. Okay, I will give you this. And remember that you only have 10 minutes to classify the sentences. Okay, time's up. Okay, some of you got the correct answers and some of you are not. But as we go along with our discussions, you class will know what structures your sentences is under or belongs to. So before we start our proper discussions, I have some questions for you class to answer. I will call Miss De Guzman. Okay, Miss De Guzman, which type of sentence was easiest to classify and why? Okay, I agree with your answer. So yes, your answer is correct. The most easiest structure in sentences is simple. It's because simple the simple only has to I only need to have a subject, a verb, and an object, such as I am happy. That's a simple sentence. Miss Pios, which sentence, which sentence type was the hardest and why? Mm, yes, I also agree with your answer. Compound complex is the hardest structures in sentences. Why? Because compound and complex, you need to have at least one one dependent clauses and independent clauses, and all you have to do is to merge the two sentences into one, and you will need what? Yes, subordinating conjunctions. Next question is, how did your group decide where each sentence belongs? Okay, but you decided in a way that you use your prior knowledge. Wow, that's nice to hear. You have stuff knowledge class. Next is, can I have some word from the group of Miss Canilanza? Okay, here's your question. Did any sentence challenge your understanding of sentence structure and how? Hmm, yes, there are sentences that are quite confusing. Yes, it's because it looked long, but it wasn't compound complex, yes. And for you to understand it very well is you have to read it carefully and identify the process. And for the last question, I want to hear the answers of Miss Musicare's group. So the question is, why is it important to identify sentence structures in writing? Okay, yes, it is important to identify structures in, in sentences structures in writing. It's because you write more clearly and make your paragraph more interesting. And using different sentences for each type later on. So we'll come to the types of sentences according to its structure. So first, what is sentence structures? So sentence structures refers to how sentences are put together, including how words and clauses are arranged to form different types of sentences. So when we say different types of sentences, we have declarative, interrogative, another imperative, yes. That are types of sentence. But in sentence structures, what we usually do is to use declarative sentence. Yes, declarative sentence is a statement. So in sentence structures, all we have to do is to put together two sentences. Yeah, we can put together two sentences and make it into one sentence by having a linking conjunctions. So our four types of sentences according to its structure. First, we have simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. So first, let's discuss simple. Before we discuss the four types, let's have the independent clause. So an independent clause is a sentence that contains a subject and a verb and it can stand alone. So independent clause is a sentence that can stand alone. For example, you will succeed. As you can see the example, you will succeed is a statement that is understandable because we have a subject, we have a verb, and we have an object. So you is the subject, will is a verb, and succeed is an object. Next is dependent clause. A dependent clause is a sentence that contains a subject and a verb, but it cannot stand alone. For example, if you hard work. So as we read the example, if you work hard, and what makes it if you work hard, it's quite confusing. So that's dependent clause. And in order for us to understand the dependent clause, is we will add the independent clause to make it a sentence that can stand alone because dependent clause is cannot stand without the independent clause. And next we have subordinating conjunctions. So subordinating conjunctions is a conjunctions used to link dependent clauses to independent clauses. For example, if you work hard, you will succeed. So we have if you work hard, this is a dependent clause. And you will succeed is an independent clause. So if you put together the independent clause and the dependent clause, you will have a sentence that can stand alone and more understandable than the dependent clause. So to make the sentence, to make the two clauses stand alone is we will use the subordinating conjunctions. So what are the conjunctions? We have the fan voice. What are the fan voice? The fan voice stands for F for A for on, N for nor, D for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S is for so. So that's fan voice, and fan voice is a conjunction. Very good. Next, now let's start the first sentence. The types of sentences according to its structure. So first we have simple sentence. A simple sentence contains a subject and a verb, and it may also have an object and modifiers. However, it contains only one independent clause. So, example, the dog barks. Dog is the subject and barks is the verb. So the dog barks. It's understandable. In tahol ang iro. So it makes the statement understandable and not confusing. So in simple sentence is literally simple. Why? Because all we have to do is to have a subject and a verb, and we can have also an object to make it. I Yeah, that's a simple sentence. Next is compound sentence. So compound sentence is consists of two independent clauses joined together by a coordinating conjunction or linking word. So in compound sentence, we should have two independent clause. And this two independent clause, what is independent clause? Yes, it is a statement or a sentence that can stand alone. So we have the first statement we have is the dog barks. So it is an independent clause. And also we have another one independent clause, which is the cat meows. So we have already a two independent clause. And then all we have to do is to join together the two independent. And what word did we put or conjunctions we put? Yes, the linking word we put is the word and. So to make the two independent clause becomes one sentence is we will put a linking word and. So the dog barks and the cat meows. So that is a one statement. Next is complex sentence. A complex sentence contains an independent clause and a dependent clause. So when we say complex, it's quite literal complex. Yes, it looks like it's hard, but when we understand complex sentence, either it will become easier for us. So in complex sentence, we have an independent clause and a dependent clause. So one sentence that can stand alone and another one that cannot stand alone without the independent clause. So for example, we have the dog barks. And when it sees a stranger. So the dog barks is an independent clause. And when it sees a stranger, it is a dependent clause. The dog barks can stand alone and the other is cannot stand alone. Because when we read the dependent clause, which is when it sees a stranger, what? Why naman og makita di siya og tao? Diba? It doesn't make sense. But the dog barks, it already makes sense because we can understand this sentence. So to make this two become a complex sentence, all we have to do is to put them together. The dog barks when it sees a stranger. That's a complex sentence. And we can also put the when it sees a stranger, the dog barks. So that is also a sentence. And this sentence, this example, is a complex sentence. And the last structures of sentence is compound complex sentence. We say what? We have compound and then we also have complex. Yes, but this sentence is not that very hard. So compound complex sentence, it contains at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. So we will think of two statements that can stand alone and one statement that cannot stand alone. For example, then it sees a stranger, but the cat hides under the table. So the first independent clause is the cat hides, and the second independent clause is under the table, and our and our our one dependent clause is then it sees a stranger. Okay, so then it sees a stranger that is a dependent clause, and the cat hides, and also under the table, that two is our independent clauses. So when we put these three statements together, we can have then it sees a stranger, the cat hides under the table. We should disregard the bat because the sentence doesn't make sense if we put that. And any questions regarding to the topic discussion? Okay, no questions. So let's proceed to our activity. So it's our activity time. So our activity is sentence creation. Okay, class, it is expected that you will create a sentence according to its structures. So instructions. So first, students remain in the same group. So we will use the same groups we created a while ago. Next is each group creates two original sentences for each type. The simple, the compound, the complex, and the compound complex. So you're expected to create your original sentences. And groups will write their sentences on the board. So after you brainstorm and discuss the sentences you want to create, is you will write your original sentences in our board. Sorry for inconvenience class, but it seems like I cannot project my rubrics here. It's because I have slow internet connection, but I will just read the rubrics for the sentence creation. So for criteria, the 4 is excellent, 3 is good, 2 is fair, and 1 needs improvement. So our first criteria is sentence structure. So sentences clearly demonstrate correct use of simple, compound, complex, and compound complex structures. Next, as for grammar and punctuations, no grammatical or punctuation errors. On our next criteria is originality and creativity. Sentences are highly original and creative. Clarity and coherence. Sentences are clear, logical, and easy to understand. And for our last criteria is the participation and collaboration. So all group members actively participate and contribute equally. In total of 20 points. So I will just send the rubrics in our GC if you want to read it. And you only have 10 minutes to create a sentence according to its structures. Okay, time's up. And now we will check your sentence creation. So everyone are correct in creating their sentences. You you class are you class listen attentively to our discussions. And for our assessment, so another inconvenience class, I'm very sorry. So again and again, I'll just read the instructions for our assessment. Anyway, this assessment is through Google Forms. So I've already sent the Google Forms in our GC, and this is an individual short online quiz. So in our Google Forms, we have to answer or identify the types of 5 given sentences and create 1 sentences in each type. And you are going to answer it in 5. I mean, this assessment is our assignment, so you can answer it in your home. And yeah, and also this assessment, which is the Google form, is automatically collects answers for grading. And I can also, and after you answer, I can provide my feedbacks or uncommon mistakes. Lastly, I've also send or send the criteria for the on creating sentences. Just please take a look and read the criteria. So I guess that would be all. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something. You learned I mean, the four types of sentences according to its structures. So goodbye and see you tomorrow.